Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel 3 Stories. This is Zsuzsi and today's video is a continuation of my first ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses reading vlog that I will link down below. In that reading vlog, I read the first original trilogy in this series, but in this reading vlog, I am reading the little novella that connects us to the upcoming trilogy that starts off with A Court of Silver Flames. This is a reading weekend. I didn't really plan anything else but reading these two books, and I also have the audiobook, so the audio will help me out because I do have some errands to run and a couple of places to go, and I will take you guys with me because it is still spring here in Boston as I am recording this video, and it is beautiful out there. So let's get to the video, starting with the little novella. The novella Court of Frost and Starlight, and today is so incredibly hot here that I almost wish that it was winter. While this is not necessarily the most exciting book in the series, it definitely served the purpose. With the war against Highburn over, Feyre and Rhysand and their friends and family, they all returned to the Night Court, to Velaris, to rebuild the city and to try to recover from the war as much as they can. And they are also preparing for the winter solstice. And most characters and most of them are dealing fairly well with the events that happened in the previous book. There are some, like for example Nesta, who is not really coping well, and she is clearly suffering and she is unable to move forward with her life. This book was obviously published just as a filler book that sets up the event that is going to happen in the next book, or maybe even in the upcoming trilogy, because there are a couple of different storylines that are set up in here. But this book, despite being fantasy and so short, and you know, so many people say that it was just a treat for the fandom, I think it actually touches on a very serious subject, and that what happens to people when there's a war, what happens to the civilians and what happens to the soldiers and what happens to the veterans. Because when there's a war, so many people's mostly civilians, they get displaced and nobody really takes care of them. The veterans, they suffer from mental issues, they suffer from PTSD, and often they do not get the rehabilitation that they need. So that was, in my opinion, a very important topic that Sarah J. Maas touched on. With this book done, I am immediately picking up Court of Silver Flames. I'm super excited to start that book because I cannot wait to read the story of Cassian and Nesta. But also it's such a bittersweet moment because this is the last book that's been published in the series, and when I'm done with that, there are no additional books to read. So when it's done for a while. So anyways, this weekend is definitely an ACOTAR weekend, and I didn't plan anything. All I'm gonna do is reading A Court of Silver Flames. I finished the last book, the last published book in the ACOTAR series, A Court of Silver Flames, and oh my god, I think that this is my favorite book in the series. I am confident to say that this is my favorite book in the series. Alright, so what is this book about? So, after returning from the war with Highburn, Nesta Archeron has become increasingly self-destructive. She finds it very difficult to deal with everything that happened to her and her sisters in the war, and she just cannot seem to recover. Feyre calls an intervention in an attempt to try to help her sister. It was actually a very uncomfortable scene, but anyway, let's just stick with that story that she's trying to help Nesta, and therefore she presents Nesta with an ultimatum. She has two options. Option A is that she can change her daily routine of drinking and substance abuse and some other stuff and begin training with Cassian at the House of Wind and also help out the priestesses in the library. So yes, Nesta Archeron is becoming a librarian. Or option B, she can go to the human realm, and she knows that living among the humans SFA is not the best for her, so she opts for the first option, training with Cassian. And training it is that they do. But there is more to the plot because this book is like, what, 900 pages long, and it's 800 pages long, and it's not just about Nesta and Cassian training. It's also about other things. The human queens who did not participate in the Highburn War, they began scheming, and there is a potential for a war again, and they would really like to avoid that. And it turns out that Nesta and Cassian, and they're working together, could potentially save Prythian again from another war. The strength of this book, at least in my humble opinion, is its character-driven nature, because all the three books, the original trilogy, that was very action-packed, and there were, you know, there was a very serious plot, and there were twists and turns, and not in this book. This is all about character development, and this is all about Nesta, and we get to see a little bit of Cassian and a little bit of different side of Cassian as well. Sure, there is a plot and there are some action scenes that are mostly connected to Cassian or led by Cassian. We mainly focus on Nesta and her journey to mental well-being, to let pain go and guilt go, and learn how to love herself, because she deals with so much pain and depression. It is really painful to see. We come to see her, we come to understand the reasoning behind her behavior and behind her demeanor, specifically, for example, when it comes to Elaine, why she is the way she is. And with this book, Sarah J. Maas transformed Nesta from a character that nobody liked. I cannot look, I don't know what to say about that, because I actually loved Nesta, but I know that most of the people who read the other books, they said that, okay, Nesta is not exactly the best character, but with this book, she transforms her and she makes Nesta into a very lovable character. Sarah J. Maas for sure knows how to do her character work. Like, I really, really like her characters, because we can all, regardless of our age and gender and what experiences we had in life, we will find a character that we can relate to in her books. And she shows that if we are willing to put in the work, and if we choose to help ourselves, that we can recover, because everybody is worthy. Everybody is worthy of forgiveness and love and happiness. This book also deals with trauma, specifically female trauma or traumas surrounding women, and there are two other female characters in this book, Gwyn and Emery, who also suffered, and we get to see also their recovery journey and how these three women chose to empower each other throughout the book, and that was beautiful to see. And the relationship between Nesta and Cassian finally gets there. I've been waiting a long time to get to see how these two end up together. What I loved about this book, and I do hope that Sarah J. Maas will not change this book was written in third person and not first person. We don't see anybody from Feyre's point of view anymore, and I love that, because you know, when an author does that, then you only get to see Feyre's opinion, and it's a very specific opinion about certain characters. And you know, that's what happened to Tamlin. People all hate her because they only get to see Feyre's point of view. Now, in this book, that's not what happens. We get to see Nesta's point of view, we get to see Cassian's point of view, and that's great. I do have two issues with the book, but it didn't change my overall enjoyment. But I think that the pacing was a little bit off. Like, I felt that the beginning of the book was very slow, and then at the end we just got like 80 pages of action and action and action, and I'm like, oh, okay, what's happening? And we also had a very underdeveloped villain. Now, maybe this was intentional, like I don't know, but we didn't really get to see the villain, just like in like 40 pages or something like that, 80 pages, I don't know. And like again, this book was not about the plot, but maybe a little bit of more of Brielle, one of the human queens who was the villain in this book, it would have been good. Maybe that's for the upcoming books and for the upcoming story, I don't know, but I think that was a little bit off. And I hated that we had to witness another character assassination. Rhysand, right, our feminist king, who decides to lie in this book to his own wife and mate, I should say, and then he becomes a control freak, and he tells everybody what to do, and he threatens to kill Feyre's sister, and he becomes crazy. Or maybe, I don't know, again, we're back to that point, maybe because we don't see him from Feyre's point of view anymore, and you know, like for Feyre, obviously he is, I don't know, the god, and because we don't do that anymore, maybe we just get to see another side of him. I don't know, but it was really interesting to see that he basically behaves the same way as Tamlin in many ways. The decisions that he made in this book were way worse than Tamlin did. So, justice for Tamlin. And one last comment, because this is really interesting. I think Sarah J. Maas must be a really, really good businesswoman, but I find it really interesting that there are different editions out there that has these bonus chapters, one from Feyre and then one from Ezreal. Like my book actually has none, so I had to look up these chapters, and I will link them in the description below if you want to read them. And that is an interesting publishing strategy. Not everybody can or want to, you know, buy 2 books to just read these bonus chapters, and depriving her fandom from these bonus chapters, like depending on what is available in your country or in your area. I don't know, that doesn't really seem fair to me. I don't know, maybe it was just a blatant money grab from the publisher. I don't know, but that was interesting, and I don't think I can support that. But I love this book. Just like I said, it's a character study, a very long character study, but I loved it. And this book means so much to me, and I'm so happy that I read this series and that I read this book, and I cannot wait for the new book to come out. I'm back again to tell you my final thoughts about this series, because I said it before in the previous video and I say it again. This series, and specifically book 1 and book number 5 or book 4, depending on how you count the novella, these books are the best things that happened to my 2023 reading year. I really like the first book because this is the book that introduced me to the world, to Prythian, and also some of my favorite characters. Actually, they start out in book number 1 and book number 5, because this book was such an amazing character study, and I really liked that book. Sarah Janet for sure knows how to build characters. She also knows how to destroy them, but she knows how to build characters, and I am so invested. I want to know what happens in Prythian next. I want to know what happens to this character next. I just cannot seem to stop, and I think that is a mark of a good book. It's not just always about beautiful writing. No, if a book makes you feel like, oh my god, I don't want to finish reading this book, I don't want to finish reading this series, I want to stay in this world and I want to know exactly what happens next, to me, that's a mark of a good book. I am 99% sure that the next book will be Elaine's and Lucian's. I believe that Ezreal's story will get connected somehow to Crescent City, and we will get to know a little bit more about him through Crescent City, but I love Ezreal, so I do hope that he will keep popping up, you know, in the upcoming stories, because he deserves to be happy. I have some crazy theories about the upcoming books, and specifically maybe the next one, because I believe that Elaine will be actually super powerful. I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that she is the most powerful out of the 3 sisters. I mean, I think there's a reason, you know, why the cauldron just like shield her mind. There's a reason for that, and I have a lot of crazy theories, but I'm not going to go into them way too deep. But I do think that she will be super powerful, and the the reason why Sarah J. Maas portrayed her as like, you know, such a meek person, and the reason why Sarah J. Maas regressed her relationship with Lucian is because we will get that story in the next book. You know, they became mates in book 2. You cannot develop their relationship throughout like 4 books, because then there is no next book. So I am convinced that it will be their story. How cool would it be if she made Elaine into a witch, for example? She likes to cook, she likes to bake, and she likes to grow things. So, you know, she can like grow her own stuff for the witchy things. So I think that would be actually super cool. And I believe that we will go to the mortal lands. And as long as we're talking about mortals, am I the only one who sees the Jurian Vasa connection there? And obviously we will be working on breaking Vasa's curse and Kosche, you know, the god. And I'm very interested to see how that will work out, because so far everything that they battled with, it was like fairies. So, you know, you just kill them, you cut their heads off or whatever, they're dead. But now they are battling gods. And I think that that takes the story to a whole new level. Just like I said, I'm ready to go to the mortal lands. I am ready to leave the night court behind. I want to see more of the day court. And I think we will get some Pegasus. This means Pegasus in my world. So I hope that we will get some Pegasus. And also, I want to go to the autumn court, and I want to know a little bit more about Aries, who deep down I'm pretty sure he is just a misunderstood guy like Rysand was. And with the day court, with the mortal lands, with the autumn court, I think that we will get to see a little bit more of Lucian, and I cannot wait for that. And I do want them to get together. This is it. This is the end of this video. This series, this was a ride, and I am very unhappy that this ride is over. I am definitely starting to reread the entire series. I don't know, maybe even today with book 1 I want to. So probably that's what's going to happen. I am very appreciative that you joined today's video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what are your theories. What are your theories about the upcoming stories? Not necessarily about the upcoming book, maybe the upcoming 2 books and the novella. Where are we going to go with those? I do want to know what you think. I see you soon in another video. Bye.